Right after I finished filming part 1 of this series, Strategy did the one thing its founder swore it would never do. It gave itself permission to sell Bitcoin. Now, if you watch part 1, you already know why that matters, and you know exactly how to read into it. If you haven't, then I recommend you go to the description of this video and click on the link to part 1. It's going to set you up for this episode. Quick recap. In part 1, we learned there are two things that are really important when you're monitoring the health of Strategy as a company. One is its MNAV, and two is whether it can actually pay its future bills. Now, this recent announcement by Strategy is really pointing towards that second point, whether Strategy can pay its future bills. So today I'm going to break down exactly what they have announced, what it really means for Strategy, what it could mean for Bitcoin's price, and then I'll give you a full bull case, full bear case scenario, and my honest take on all of it. On the 29th of June, Strategy announced what it calls a digital credit capital framework. A fancy name, but really it has 5 moves rolled into one. Let me give you to them plainly. 1, a formal cash reserve policy. They are holding about $2.5 billion of US cash, set aside only to pay the dividends and the interest on their loan products that they have. And they have promised to keep at least 12 months of that to cover at all times. 2, they've raised the dividend on Stretch, the big flagship preferred product that they have. From 11.5%, it's gone up to 12%. 3, a $1 billion program has been introduced to buy back their preferred shares. And 4, a $1 billion program has been introduced to buy back their ordinary MSTR shares. Finally, the 5th point, the big one, Bitcoin monetization program. For the first time, the board has formally authorized selling Bitcoin up to $1.25 billion worth, and that's to fund all of those above programs. Now, $1.25 billion sounds enormous, but in their world, it's about 20,800 Bitcoins, which is roughly 2.5% of everything that they hold. And this is important. None of these are obligations. They are permissions. The company can do them. It doesn't have to do them. So what does this actually mean? In one line, it's the moment Strategy stopped being a company that only buys Bitcoin and became a company that actively manages its balance sheet. Think back to part 1. The whole tension is that there are these annual bills over $1.5 billion every year, and a falling Bitcoin price chokes their ability to raise cheap money to pay off that. This framework is their answer. It sets a clear order for who pays the bills. First, the cash reserves. Second, raising money the normal way. And third, only as a last resort, they now have permission to use the Bitcoin that they have, sell it, and pay their obligations. That is genuinely a clever piece of messaging. The single biggest fear hanging over this stock was that a price crash could force a fire sale of Bitcoin. They've taken that binary panic and turned it into a calm, governed, optional process with a $2.5 billion buffer sitting in front of it. The market liked it. The stock jumped around 6% the day they announced this, and Stretch, the preferred product, jumped around 9%. But here is the honest other side, and we dig into it properly in just a moment. To calm everyone down, they had to raise the cost of their most important product, Stretch. It's now at 12%. And they had to publicly admit that selling Bitcoin is now on the table. For a company built on never selling, that is a real shift. Now, zoom out, because this company is so big that what it does ripples into Bitcoin's price, and it's the same price everyone else has to trade on. There are 2 ways to read it. The optimistic read is that it's good for Bitcoin. By proving it can pay its bills for more than 2.5 years without selling a single coin, Strategy removes the fear that the largest corporate holder on earth is about to become the biggest forced seller. That takes an overhang off the market, and it really calms the nerves. The cautious read is the opposite. They have just published a standing authorization to sell up to $1.25 billion worth of Bitcoin. Even if they never use it, every trader now knows that it's an option and it's loaded. And the timing is delicate. Bitcoin is sitting around $60,000, sentiment is extreme fear, and Bitcoin's funds have just had their worst month of outflows in records. Dropping a sell authorization into a market that fragile isn't nothing. And I'm not going to put a price prediction on it, that's just not what I do on this channel, but you need to hold both of those reads in your head at all times. Now, this is exactly the kind of thinking my team and I do every single day. If you want to see how we actually position around all of this, then come and join my free live webinar, Building Life-Changing Wealth in Crypto. I walk through the 4-step blueprint that I've now taught over 1,000 clients so you can see if it fits the way that you want to build your own crypto wealth. The link to register is in the description of the video. All right, let's get back to what you came for. So is this framework a sign of strength or is it a sign of stress? Let me give you both cases as fairly as I can, and then I'll give you my own read on it. Here is the bull case, the strong version. First, it kills the single biggest fear. The four-seller nightmare is now gone, replaced by a disciplined, optional, fully disclosed process. Second, the liquidity is genuinely strong. Nearly 26 months of dividend cover is now in place. They can pay everyone well into 2028 without touching a single one of their Bitcoin stack. Third, the buybacks are smart. Their preferred shares are trading below their $100 value, so buying them back cheap actually lowers the future dividend bill and creates value for shareholders. Fourth, it's designed to fix stretch, to pull it back towards its $100 par value and reopen their best funding tap. And fifth, the Bitcoin thesis is completely intact. Even if they use the entire authorization, that is 2.5% of the stack. 97.5% stays untouched. This is a company trimming a little bit off the top to make sure they can compound further and further into the next decade. Now, the bear case, the strong version of that. First, look at what they actually did. They are now prepared to sell the one asset they built their entire identity on never selling. Never sell has quietly become sell when it suits us. Companies that are thriving do not need to rewrite their policy. Second, the cost is going up, not down. The dividend bill is around $1.76 billion a year, and they just raised stretch to 12%. Remember from part 1 that rate applies to the whole balance. So that is a real increase in their cost of capital at the worst possible time that the market could be asking for it. And the hike itself is an admission that Stretch was struggling to hold its value. Third, this buffers the problem. It doesn't solve it. If Bitcoin keeps falling, that cash reserve drains, and topping it up means selling more coins at a lower price, which pressures the very asset holding the whole thing up. The buffer buys time, it doesn't cure it. Fourth, a loaded gun is still a loaded gun, and a standing authorization to sell is still sitting over the largest holder in the market, in a new overhang that did not exist just weeks ago. And fifth, step back and look at the posture. The flywheel that built this company runs on a premium that is currently gone. This entire framework is a playbook for treading water without it. It is a defense, not an offense. So those are the two cases laid out, as honestly as I possibly can. Both are real, and here is where I land on it all. Overall, I have a lot of conviction in Michael Saylor. I think he is extremely intelligent and extremely capable, and I believe he knows exactly what he's doing. Now, I will be honest with you, I think some of this could have been handled better over the past few months, but I'm actually glad the cat is finally out of the bag. The market now knows that strategy can sell Bitcoin. It knows the reasons why they would, and it has a reasonable expectation of how much, which is his relatively small slice compared to his very large stack. Clarity is better than a promise that was always going to be bent. Now, to be completely transparent with you, I'm not invested in MSTR and I don't hold Stretch, but I am watching them very closely. And here is why. Markets are irrational. And if you're someone who believes in Bitcoin over the long term, then just remember this company's MNAV has at times traded at a multiple of 5 times times its Bitcoin that it actually holds. That is what makes it a genuinely interesting product to me, as it's potentially a way you can leverage your position in your Bitcoin play. And I'm not buying it today, but I am watching it very closely. And what am I watching for? The same two things from part one of this video: the MNAV to see if that premium ever comes back, and their repayment position. Which brings me to the most important thing I want to leave you with. Whatever side you land on, here is how you watch this play from here, using the exact checklist from part one. Does Stretch climb back towards $100? Does that cash reserve stay above 12 months of cover? And do they actually start selling Bitcoin? And if they do, how much? But this is the big one. Keep your eye on their yearly liability payments against what the business actually earns. Right now, Stretch is paying 12%. And if Bitcoin keeps falling, that rate can climb even higher. If you know anything about interest earning assets, you will know that 12% is already extraordinarily high. A company paying a rate like that on a balance that size, while its actual revenue covers only a fraction of it, is something you want to watch very, very carefully. That gap between what they owe and what they earn is the real scoreboard. Those signals will tell you in real time whether this plan is working or whether the squeeze is winning. I would genuinely love to know what side you are on, bull or bear. Drop it in the comment section. I read every comment and I reply to them. And if this video finally helped you make sense of strategy and make sense of what their announcement meant, then it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel and hit a like button. Now that's the second part of this two-part series. If you haven't watched the first part, go to the description of this video and the link will be there. And make sure you subscribe to this channel, because any new updates, particularly with strategy or anything Bitcoin or crypto market related, I'm going to be posting it straight to you. So hit the subscribe button, make sure the bell notification is on, and I'll see you in the next video.